Hey everybody, it's Charlie with Charlie's Flybox, and today I'm going to tie for you Aaron Freed's Infinity Stone. This is a new fly from Up with Feather Merchants this year. Aaron has a couple other patterns, the Stubby Ant and the Summer Stone, and he has added the Infinity Stone to his offering. And this is a little stonefly pattern. He ties it in a squala, a golden, and a salmon fly version. He has tied this to be a little bit more drab, not quite so over the top like so many stonefly patterns are, a little bit more subtle. And at first glance, this fly seems pretty simple, and it really is, but you got to know a few little tricks. So I'm going to show you those as I tie them. Aaron's been super helpful in kind of walking me through this and sent me a really good set of directions, which is always welcome. But I'm gonna show you how he does this. It's a pretty cool fly. You'll have fun tying it. So as I said, this one kind of starts off a little different. And to begin with, you're going to, depending on what color you're going to tie. I'm tying the golden. This is tied with sort of a cream colored foam on the bottom and a tan colored foam on top. For a size 6, it's a 7 millimeter wide piece. For a size 8, it's 6 millimeters. For a size 10, it's 5 millimeters. For a size 12, it's 4 millimeters wide. I'm going to tie a size 10 here, so this is about 5 millimeters. Although I just measured it and it's really closer to 6, but I'm going to make it work. Now, one of the things that Aaron does is he doesn't glue these together at first. They're just two separate pieces. I've sort of found a little hack for that, and I've just glued just this back end together, and you'll see why here in a minute. But I've just glued the back end of the foam together. So just the last quarter inch or so. I put some super glue on there and pinched them together. Make sure that they're lined up like so. And what I'll do, I'm going to try to show this up on the camera here. Use my vise as a reference point. I'm going to take my bobbin and I'm going to create a band of thread here. I'll try to hold this up where you could see it. Yeah, held it up too high, didn't I? At any rate, here's what I did. Let's try that again. I made a little band, and you see I'm just holding the tag with my thumb to create a little segment there at the end of the foam. And then I'll draw out some thread, and you can use your whip finisher here, but I tend to always do this with a hand whip finish. And one of the funny things that I've found is while I normally tie left-handed, when I do something in hand like that, I almost always do it right-handed. I don't know why that is, but so I'm going to cut that tag end out, and then I'll cut the working thread out. If I can get a hold of it. I'll be back on the screen in a minute. There we go. So I've just cut that off. So I've just created a little band as upright, level as I can. And then I'll set that aside for a second. And into my vise, I'm going to put a Tiemco 3769. This is a size 10 that I'm tying. So I'm going to start my thread. And incidentally, the thread is Magpie Materials 110 denier in deep yellow. Aaron used 140 UTC thread, which is absolutely usable. I just had this handy and I really like this color. So I'm going to start this just behind the eye. And I'm going to dress the hook shank, and I give it a pretty good, total of about 3 layers. So I'm going to work all the way from the front back to the barb and then forward again. And then run back one more time. And that's just going to give us a nice yellow hook shank. It'll give us some color there. We'll make sure that we're not going to have any bare spots as we move forward. I'm going to leave the thread hanging just in front of that, of where the thread ends. So you can see the thread itself is hanging just a little forward of where I left my thread base. And at this point, I'm going to pick up my piece of foam. And one thing I'll do to this, and I do this now, is I'm going to knock these corners off. So I'm going to come in and just clip these corners like so. So I've rounded those corners off. And Aaron doesn't do this, but I always do this on flies like this. I'm going to take a lighter and heat that up, pinch it just a little bit, just rounds that end up a little bit. Got kind of a weird edge here I'm going to knock off. Round that down a little bit, just smooths things off. I just think that looks prettier. So now, before I tie this foam down, I'm going to put just a tiny little bit of Zap-A-Gap on the bend of the hook. Don't get crazy here. Watch the whole set of directions. Watch this whole video. And I say read the whole set of directions because I was doing it and I did it wrong several times first. So just a little drop of glue at the bend. And I'm going to lay this piece of foam, this stacked piece, with square right on top of the hook, with an equal spaced segment there at the bend. So you can see those first two segments are about the same size. And I made 3 or 4 turns there, but I want to make 8 or 10. Like so. And putting that drop of glue just keeps that from wobbling back and forth. Aaron kind of glues it all at the end. I like to lock that down just so I'm not fighting with that twisting around in the meantime. So now I'm going to pick up this foam, and I'm going to work the thread forward one more segment width, and I'll create another segment. And same kind of thing. I'm going to go 5-6 turns there to lock that down. And you can see even with that glue on there, that still wants to wobble around a little bit. That's just something you'll have to contend with for the moment. And at this point, we're going to tie the wing in. So the wing is Sculptifly fibers from EP, Enrico Puglisi Sculptifly. And this is I think this is actually the gray color. I think he uses tan, but I couldn't get any tan, so I'm going to use this gray. I would very easily use macrame on this. I got this for this fly, but I would definitely use macrame just because I've got it in 8 million colors. But I'm going to take a pretty good little bundle of this, and I'm going to tie it in right on top and anchor it down good and tight. Like so. Make sure it's right square on top. I always want to check. And then I'm going to pick up these butt ends and trim these off. I want to trim these pretty close. So that's just tied in like so. Alright, so once I've got that wing in right on top, I'm going to come in with a piece of silly legs, and Aaron uses root beer colored silly legs, and the closest thing I have on hand, I actually think these are pretty root beer colored, kind of orangish colored, but I'm going to tie one end on my near side, and I'm just going to catch it with maybe just a turn to start with. So I've tied that in on my near side in that segment. And I'm going to put one in on the far side and do the same thing. So I'm going to lay this in and catch it. And you can see when I catch those, I'm going to get one more turn over all of them. When I catch those, you can see that far leg is high. I can always adjust that and kind of creep that down. Let me get it here where I can see it. Creep that down under the thread wrap, and I try to get it right where the division between the two colors of foam are and try to square them up on the fly. Now, these front ends you want to leave long. We're going to use those as we move forward here. So you want to leave those a little bit long. So now I'm going to pick up the foam, and I'm going to creep forward pretty close to the hook eye here. And I'm going to tie down just the bottom foam. And this is why you didn't want to glue both these pieces of foam together all the way through. We've got a cool little trick for the legs. So I'm going to tie that cream colored foam down, making a slightly longer segment there. Then I'm going to come in with a little shot of Zap-A-Gap just on that top surface of that foam, and it doesn't take very much. And I'm going to pick up another leg, same color, and I'm going to set it in there and try to lay it flat, kind of toward the back of that segment. So I just laid that in on top of that foam piece. Then I'm going to come forward with the tan foam, and I'm going to tie it down as well. I'm going to turn all the way around there and anchor that in place. 3 or 4 turns there. Make sure everything's still where it needs to be. Now, I'm going to pick up, and this is on my near side here. You guys can't see this. I might do this on the far side. I'm just going to pinch that together. I'm going to pick up here, I'll show you on this side. The front end of the back leg, and I want to pull it under that middle leg, like so, and tie it down in that segment. Catch it with the turn. I'm going to do the same thing on the near side. So you can see why we wanted to leave that leg long. And what we'll end up with, let me get all these legs situated, is coming out pretty evenly spaced through the thorax of the fly. Pretty cool way to go about it. I like that. That's good thinking, Aaron. I'm going to trim these legs down just a bit just to kind of get them out of my way for the moment. Let me give you maybe a little more light here. There, I think that shows up better. So now we're going to put the wing in. And the wing on this is natural cow elk hair. And I've stacked some up. And I'm going to take this bunch, fairly sparse bunch. One of the big points Aaron made on this fly is he wants this fly to be fairly sparse with the wing not really splayed out like so many other stonefly patterns. So I'm going to go a fairly sparse little bunch of elk hair. But before I do, I should trim this wing off. I'm going to trim this yarn wing just beyond the end of the body, and I want to cut it square to the wing, so it's just a little tuft. I always leave that one strand so I can come back and get it. You don't want to be too efficient. So now I'll take my elk hair, and I'm going to measure the elk hair from where my thread is hanging just past the end of the yarn wing. So just to the end of the body there. And I'm going to cut that hair to length. So I'm going to cut it first, like so. So I've got it cut to length in my fingers. And I usually give my thread a little spin here. I'm going to come up and over, catch it with a turn, put another turn on it, and then I like to pinch this and flare that hair in place like so. So that hair, just like on a Charlie Boy hopper, you can see why this fly appealed to me. That hair creases down in the foam slot right there. So you've got a nice clean tie down with just a couple turns. These butt ends, because I cut them first, I can keep those really short. I don't have to come back and fight with that. And now we're going to put a little indicator on top of this. And Aaron uses 2mm foam, which I've got a piece of here, just orange, whatever color you can see. But again, I'm going to come in and beforehand, I'm going to knock the corners off this, like so. And just to be finished, I'm going to hit that with the lighter and just round that off. Look how nice that looks. Just beveled the edges. So I'm going to lay this in on top. And one thing you do have to be aware of here is you want to make sure that you're not catching these front legs as you tie this down. Right on top of the elk hair, I'm going to put 2 turns on there. And then I'll pull straight down. Keep that right on top. Kind of gather that wing again, so it's underneath that indicator. Anchor that down good and tight. Then I'm going to lift everything up and just jump my thread right up here behind the hook eye. And I'll get a few turns in there to lock everything down, and then I can come in and whip finish just behind the eye. And trim that thread out. Now this orange indicator post I'm going to cut pretty short, and these 2 remaining pieces sticking out the front, I'm going to put a little bit of glue between them. And again, just a little bit. It's not going to take much, but you want to get it worked down in there. Just a little shot of glue on both halves. And then I'll pinch that together. And you got to be a little careful. I always have a scrap of foam around to wipe off the excess, because there's always excess, no matter how thin you are with it. There we go, pretty good. And I'm going to trim this front end about another equal segment, maybe just slightly longer than equal, square across at the front of the fly. And again, I'll come in and round these off, just knock the corners off. A good sharp pair of scissors does this job so well. You see I just rounded those corners out. Now we're going to trim the legs to length. I'm going to make them about a shank length long on either side. Kind of gather that wing. And then lastly, we're going to come in and kind of turn the fly over. And I'll come in with some more zap, and I'm going to run right down the base of the fly. Now as I do this, it occurs to me that I didn't glue my wing down. I'll get that last segment as well. So I'm going to pick up my elk hair. You should have done this right after you tied this in. And just put a little shot of glue on those thread wraps at the base of the wing. That way it won't pull out later. It's not that those things ever come out while you're fishing, but it usually comes out when you're tying the knot. You hold onto the fly and you go to pull your knot down tight and you yank that wing out. So that little shot of glue is a good idea. But that is Aaron Freed's Infinity Stone. Pretty cool fly. Really comes out clean. It's easy to do once you get the hang of it and you kind of know those little tricks. Fun fly. I feel like these legs on my near side are a little long. That's a little better. But pretty cool bug, pretty realistic silhouette, and a fun fly to tie. Not the same old thing that you've been tying. I hope you guys enjoy that. I think you should check out Aaron's other patterns as well. We've got them here in the shop if you are a buyer and not a tyer, or if you want a sample. We've got them. But pretty cool fly. That was fun. You guys, thanks for watching. I'm Charlie at Charlie's Fly Box. If you need anything, you know who to holler at. You guys take care.